There's a reason some people can walk into a room full of strangers and within minutes have everyone leaning in, laughing, and listening to them like old friends. What's their secret? Is it charisma? Is it confidence? Or is it something you can actually learn? That's the question Leil Lowndes set out to answer when she wrote How to Talk to Anyone. First released in 2003, this book has since become a modern classic in the world of communication and human connection. Leil Lowndes isn't just a writer. She's a communication expert who has spent decades studying the little behaviors, gestures, and words that make people instantly like and trust you. Now here's the thing. We live in a world today where conversations are shorter, attention spans are thinner, and distractions are everywhere. Whether you're building your career, making new friends, or even going on a date, the ability to connect with people has become more important than ever. And that's where this book hits home. It's not about complicated psychology. It's about simple, actionable techniques you can use right away to feel more confident and make every conversation smoother. This isn't just about talking. It's about creating a presence. Leil breaks down the exact ways you can spark genuine connections, leave lasting impressions, and handle social situations without awkward silences or forced small talk. The beauty of this book is that it shows you how to be natural, authentic, and still magnetic in every interaction. So whether you're at a business meeting, at a party, or just chatting with someone new, How to Talk to Anyone gives you the kind of tools that make people say, there's just something about you. And that's powerful, especially in today's fast-paced, competitive world where your relationships can make or break opportunities. Now, before moving forward, subscribe to the Mindful Brief and like this video. Your life can change from here. Now, enjoy the book. When you walk into a room full of strangers, what happens inside your head? Most people feel a wave of nervousness. Questions like, what do I say? How do I not look awkward? Start echoing. This is where Leil Lowndes begins her mission in How to Talk to Anyone. She teaches us that the very first impression you make can decide whether people lean in to know you more or quietly drift away. First impressions aren't just about what you say. They begin long before your first words. Think about the way you enter a room. If you walk in looking unsure, with your shoulders slouched, people pick up on that instantly. Lowndes suggests walking in with quiet confidence as if you already belong there. That little shift in posture, that subtle calm in your walk, it tells people, this person is someone I should pay attention to. And then comes the smile. Not the quick, polite smile we often throw around without thinking, but what she calls the flooding smile. You let your smile slowly spread, reaching your eyes almost like you've just spotted an old friend. This creates a ripple of warmth, making the other person feel special before you've even said a word. Another underrated but powerful tool is eye contact. Not a cold stare, but a lingering, steady gaze that shows you're genuinely interested in the person in front of you. When you give people the gift of attention, really looking at them, not past them, they feel valued. And when someone feels valued, they open up. These little shifts, your entrance, your smile, your eye contact, build the foundation for connection. Lowndes calls it owning the moment. Before you've spoken a single word, you've already told people a story, that you're confident, approachable, and worth knowing. She also reminds us that conversation starters don't need to be brilliant. In fact, the simplest ones are often the most effective. A comment about the room, the event, or even a lighthearted observation is enough to break the ice. What matters more is your delivery, your tone, your timing, and your body language. So part one of this journey is all about crafting that invisible aura around you. From the way you walk in, to the way you smile, to the way you hold someone's gaze, these small choices can completely change how others perceive you. In today's fast-paced world, where first impressions can make or break opportunities, mastering these basics is no longer optional, it's essential. When you meet someone new, you don't have more than a few seconds to set the tone. In fact, studies show people make a judgment within the first 7 seconds of seeing you. That judgment decides whether they'll trust you, respect you, or want to keep talking to you. Leil Lowndes makes it clear, your body talks louder than your words. Even before you say hello, your posture, your face, and your energy are sending signals. So instead of stressing about a perfect line, focus on the silent language that creates instant rapport. One of her first big tips is the flooding smile, not the quick casual smile most people flash automatically. She says, wait a second, let your face relax, and then let your smile spread slowly, like sunlight breaking through clouds. The delayed reaction makes the smile feel warmer, more personal, and more genuine. It tells people, you matter, and I'm glad to see you. Then there's eye contact. Too little, and you seem insecure or distracted. Too much, and you come off intense or even creepy. Lowndes suggests aiming for that sweet spot. Hold someone's gaze just long enough to register interest, then let your eyes softly move away. Think of it as a gentle connection, not a stare down. And here's the trick. When you break eye contact, don't dart your eyes away. Instead, let them fall slowly, almost as if you're savoring the moment. It makes the other person feel important. She also talks about the sticky eyes technique. This means when you greet someone, keep your eyes on theirs for just a moment longer than usual, even as you finish your handshake. It gives the impression of deep attention, as though they're the only person in the room. Powerful people, she notes, do this naturally. It's not about intensity, it's about presence. Posture plays a massive role too. People can tell if you're unsure of yourself just by how you stand. If your shoulders are slouched or your arms crossed, you instantly put up a barrier. Instead, Lowndes suggests the big baby pivot. Turn your whole body, not just your head, when someone speaks to you. It signals total engagement, like how a child lights up when they see someone they love. That little adjustment makes the other person feel they've got your full attention. Now, what happens after the greeting? This is where most of us get nervous, the dreaded small talk. We worry about running out of things to say or sounding boring. But Lowndes flips the perspective. Small talk isn't about filling silence, it's about creating comfort. She says, the goal isn't to impress, it's to connect. So instead of diving into weather cliches or rattling off rehearsed lines, focus on the other person. She introduces the concept of the free information gift. Everyone drops little nuggets in conversation. For example, if someone says, I just got back from Boston, that's an invitation. You could respond, oh nice, what took you to Boston? Or, I've heard Boston is amazing in the fall, did you enjoy it? By picking up those clues, you keep the conversation flowing naturally. Another strategy is what she calls the parroting technique. Simply repeat a key word from what they just said, with curiosity in your tone. If they say, I'm working on a new project at work, you can reply, a new project? That small echo prompts them to expand without you needing to invent a clever line. It makes you seem deeply interested, and in truth, it does make you a better listener. Lowndes also stresses the importance of avoiding the Me Too trap. When someone shares something, resist the urge to immediately jump in with your own version. For instance, if they say, I just ran a half marathon, don't blurt, oh, me too, I did one last year. That flips the spotlight back on you. Instead, stay with them. That's impressive. How did you train for it? Keep the focus on them, at least at the beginning. That's how real connection grows. And here's a subtle but powerful tip. Silence isn't your enemy. Most of us panic when a pause appears, but Lowndes encourages embracing the pause. It often pushes the other person to reveal more, filling the gap with something deeper. If you're comfortable in the quiet, you come across as confident and relaxed. To tie it all together, she emphasizes that these small techniques add up. A flooding smile, sticky eyes, a big baby pivot, thoughtful questions, and comfortable silences. Together, they create a magnetic presence. People may not even consciously notice what you're doing, but they'll walk away thinking, wow, that person was so easy to talk to. And that's the point. Great communicators don't leave people impressed by their words. They leave people feeling good about themselves. That's the real secret. In the world of conversations, one of the biggest mistakes people make is thinking words alone carry the weight of connection. But in truth, it's often the small, subtle signals, the pauses, the tones, the gestures, that create lasting impressions. Leil Lowndes makes this crystal clear when she dives into the art of listening, and not just any kind of listening, but what she calls deep listening. Most of us think we're good listeners. We nod, we add a quick, maybe even repeat back what someone says. But that's surface level. Real listening requires a kind of presence that most people rarely give. When you're fully tuned in, you're not waiting for your turn to talk. You're not planning the next clever line in your head. You're there, eyes steady, mind focused, body relaxed. And this, more than witty remarks, makes someone feel truly valued. Think about it. How often do you meet someone who listens to you as if your words actually matter? Rare, right? That's why when you master this skill, you immediately stand out. Leil explains another layer here: mirroring emotions without overdoing it. If someone shares excitement, meet it with a spark of your own. If they're serious, lean into that seriousness. It's about pacing their energy and showing you're on the same wavelength. You don't have to fake enthusiasm or force sympathy. It's about matching presence with presence. People walk away feeling like you get them, and that's the fastest route to trust. But listening isn't just about nodding along. It's about the questions you ask. Open-ended questions, the kind that begin with how or what, give people room to expand. Instead of asking, "Did you like that trip?" you say, "What was your favorite part of the trip?" Suddenly the conversation breathes. It's not a dead end, it's an invitation. And invitations make conversations come alive. Another technique Leil shares is the idea of conversational callbacks. This is when you circle back to something someone mentioned earlier, even if it was small. Maybe they casually mentioned they love jazz. Hours later, you might say, "By the way, you mentioned jazz earlier, who's your favorite artist?" That one move shows attentiveness. It tells them you cared enough to remember. And people don't forget that kind of care. Leil also tackles one of the trickiest zones in communication: silences. Most of us are terrified of them. The second a pause appears, we rush to fill it, often with something meaningless. But silence can be powerful. When you let a moment breathe, it gives weight to the conversation. It allows the other person to reflect, to think, and often to reveal more than they originally intended. Silence, when used with comfort, can be one of the strongest tools in your conversational toolbox. Now, let's move into another layer: compliments. Everyone likes hearing good things about themselves, but not all compliments land well. A generic "you look nice" feels shallow. The secret is to make it specific and tied to effort. Instead of "nice jacket," you might say, "that color really makes your eyes stand out." Or, when someone delivers a thoughtful idea, instead of just saying "good point," you say, "I like how you connected that back to the bigger picture." Compliments that reflect observation rather than flattery build respect. And then there's humor, the delicate glue of human connection. But Leil warns us, humor is a double-edged sword. Sarcasm and teasing can backfire if trust isn't already established. The safest, most effective humor? Light self-deprecation. Not in a way that undermines you, but in a way that shows you don't take yourself too seriously. A small laugh at your own quirks makes others feel at ease. It's the signal, we're all human here. Of course, this section of the book also digs into handling difficult personalities. We all meet people who dominate conversations, who interrupt, or who turn every moment back to themselves. The key isn't to challenge them outright, it's to redirect. Leil suggests graceful redirection, which sounds like, "That's really interesting. It reminds me of something other person said earlier." It balances acknowledgement with control, moving the spotlight without creating tension. Another golden tactic: validation without agreement. You don't have to agree with someone's opinion to validate their right to feel that way. Phrases like, "I can see how you'd feel that," or "That's an interesting perspective," keep the conversation respectful without surrendering your viewpoint. This prevents arguments and keeps the dialogue flowing. By now, you start realizing that communication is less about saying the right thing and more about making others feel the right way. That's Leil's entire philosophy. People remember how you made them feel long after they've forgotten the words. If you master listening, thoughtful questions, meaningful compliments, and light humor, you're not just good at conversation. You're unforgettable. This part of the book isn't about learning clever lines. It's about reshaping how you show up in dialogue, how you make space for others, and how you leave them with a sense of connection that feels rare in today's fast-paced, distracted world. Human connection is a lot like music. You can feel when it's out of tune. And one of the fastest ways conversations go flat is when they lack rhythm. In this part of Leil Lowndes' book, the spotlight shifts toward creating that natural conversational rhythm, so people feel they're dancing with you in words rather than stumbling through small talk. One of the most powerful lessons here is learning to become a word detective. Every single time someone speaks, they drop clues, little hints about what excites them, frustrates them, or matters most. A simple phrase like, "I had such a long day at the hospital," could be brushed aside with a bland, "Oh, that's tough." But a skilled conversationalist knows that the keyword isn't long or tough. It's hospital. That one word opens a door. You can gently step in and say, "Hospital, do you work there, or were you visiting someone?" That moment transforms a dying conversation into something that feels alive and personal. Leil emphasizes this. The art of listening isn't just about nodding politely. It's about catching those little hooks in what people say and tossing the conversation line back with genuine curiosity. When you practice this, people start feeling like you get them, even though all you did was notice the breadcrumbs they left behind. Another key idea she shares is avoiding what she calls the broken record trap. Many people, when they feel nervous, keep circling back to their own favorite topics, work, the weather, or some story they've rehearsed 100 times. But that repetition bores people quickly. Instead, Leil suggests developing what she calls a conversational bank account. Fill it with small, interesting nuggets, observations, stories, or even a clever insight about something current. That way, you're not scrambling for words. You always have a fresh deposit to withdraw when the conversation starts dipping. Now, there's also a psychological trick she introduces that might surprise you. She calls it the premature we. It's the subtle art of shifting from you and me to we. For example, if you're both standing in line at a cafe, instead of saying, "This line is long," you could say, "We might be here for a while." That tiny word "we" immediately creates a sense of partnership. Suddenly, you're not strangers anymore. You're allies in the same little struggle. It's a subtle move, but people feel the warmth of belonging without even realizing why. Body language keeps playing a role here too. Leil reminds us that words alone won't carry the melody if your body's out of sync. Simple gestures, tilting your head slightly when someone speaks, mirroring their energy, or leaning in just a fraction, send signals that you're invested. The key, though, is authenticity. Fake enthusiasm is worse than no enthusiasm at all. People are wired to pick up insincerity, and when they do, the connection collapses instantly. A fascinating point she brings up is how humor, when used lightly, can act like conversational glue. Not forced jokes or one-liners, but those small moments of shared laughter at something obvious or relatable. For instance, if both of you are fumbling with your coffee lids, laughing about it together makes you both feel human and connected. That's the kind of humor that doesn't alienate. It bonds. Leil also talks about timing, the pause. Silence, when used correctly, isn't awkward. It can actually give weight to your words. Think of it like seasoning in cooking. Too much and it ruins the dish. But just enough and it makes everything more flavorful. Pausing before responding gives the impression that you're thoughtful, that you actually care about what the other person just said. And in today's world, where people are so quick to respond, a well-timed pause can make you stand out as someone who values depth over speed. By this stage in the book, the bigger picture is clear. Good conversation isn't about dazzling people with brilliance. It's about making them feel seen, heard, and valued. When you ask questions based on their clues, when you use little tricks like premature we, when you pause instead of rushing, you transform ordinary interactions into something memorable. People may not remember your exact words, but they'll remember how you made them feel. And that's where the magic lies. So, the lessons here aren't about piling on clever tricks. They're about layering empathy with curiosity, timing with attentiveness. Every interaction becomes less about surviving small talk and more about weaving a thread of connection, one that feels natural, effortless, and real. At this stage in the journey through Leil Lowndes' wisdom, the book takes us deeper into the nuances of communication. Not just what we say, but how we say it, and the subtle cues we often miss. Up until now, we've learned about making strong first impressions, creating instant rapport, and sustaining engaging conversations. But as we move forward, the focus sharpens on developing that magnetic quality where people don't just enjoy your company, they actively seek it. This is where conversational artistry and emotional intelligence begin to blend. Leil emphasizes that effective communication isn't about dominating a conversation or having the wittiest line. It's about creating an environment where the other person feels validated, respected, and understood. She introduces the concept of listening between the lines. This is where you pick up not only on the words spoken, but also on the emotions and hesitations underneath them. For example, someone might casually say, "Work has been hectic lately," but the tone, body language, or even the sigh that follows might reveal a deeper frustration or exhaustion. Responding to that unspoken feeling, sounds like you've been carrying a heavy load, creates a powerful bond. It signals that you aren't just hearing words, you're hearing them. Another fascinating idea in this section is the art of mirroring. Now, we've all heard about mirroring body language before, but Leil takes it further. It's not about robotic copying, it's about subtle alignment. If someone leans forward slightly, you do too. Not immediately, but after a few seconds, like naturally. If they speak softly, you match their volume. If they get animated, you allow your energy to rise with theirs. Done skillfully, this creates an unconscious sense of similarity, and humans are wired to trust those who seem like them. But Leil cautions, never overdo it. People notice if it feels staged. The magic lies in making it seamless, as if you both just naturally flow together. She also introduces what she calls the big baby pivot. Think about how adults unconsciously treat babies, with undivided attention, a full body pivot toward them, eyes locked, voice softened. Babies command presence without trying. Leil suggests bringing a touch of that same energy to conversations with adults. When someone speaks, pivot fully toward them, not just with your head, but with your torso, your stance, your entire attention. It communicates, right now, nothing else matters except what you're saying. In a world of distractions, that kind of presence is magnetic. Another gem is what she calls emotional echoing. When someone shares a piece of good news, say, "I finally finished that big project," don't just reply with, "That's great." Echo the emotion. "Wow, that must feel like a huge relief." You're amplifying the feeling behind the words, and people love when others reflect their emotions back to them. It creates a loop of energy that strengthens the bond. Leil also delves into the pitfalls of conversational self-centeredness. She calls it topper syndrome, that irresistible urge to top someone's story with your own. If they say, "I had a tough meeting today," and you immediately respond, "You think that's bad, let me tell you about mine," the connection fizzles. The truth is, conversations aren't competitions, they're collaborations. Instead of topping, she suggests plussing, adding on to what the other person said without overshadowing it. If they mention their tough meeting, you might say, "Yeah, I've had days like that too. It really drains you. How did you handle it?" You acknowledge, relate, but still give them the space to shine. Humor also finds its way into this section, not as a gimmick, but as a bonding tool. Leil stresses that humor works best when it's situational and inclusive, not forced or at someone's expense. Laughing with someone, not at someone, builds camaraderie. Even small moments of shared amusement, like noticing something quirky in the environment, can break the ice and create intimacy. As this part unfolds, the underlying theme is clear. The key to unforgettable conversations lies in genuine attention and subtle finesse. It's about being present, emotionally attuned, and willing to let go of the spotlight when needed. People don't remember every word you say, but they always remember how you made them feel. And by applying these techniques, listening between the lines, mirroring naturally, pivoting your attention, echoing emotions, avoiding topper syndrome, and embracing shared humor, you become the kind of person people never forget. The brilliance of Leil Lowndes is in how she shows us that none of this requires innate charisma or a natural gift of gab. It's about awareness and practice. Every conversation becomes an opportunity to refine these small but powerful habits. And over time, they transform not just the way others see you, but the way you see yourself in the art of human connection. By now, you've walked through layers of communication secrets, from the very first handshake to building trust, creating charisma, and mastering conversations in almost any setting. But in this final stretch, Leil Lowndes takes us even deeper. She shows us how to not only connect with others, but to leave a lasting imprint on their minds. Because at the end of the day, talking to anyone isn't just about surviving small talk. It's about creating meaningful relationships that open doors, spark opportunities, and most importantly, make life richer. One of the most striking parts of this last section is the focus on making people feel truly understood. Most of us listen just enough to reply. We're already crafting our response in our head while the other person is still speaking. Lowndes suggests flipping this habit on its head. Instead of waiting for your turn to speak, put all your energy into listening, not just to the words, but to the tone, the rhythm, the pauses, even the emotions behind them. She calls this listening with your heart as much as your ears. When you do this, people feel like you get them, and that kind of connection can't be faked. Another idea she stresses is planting conversational seeds. These are little details you drop during talks that spark curiosity in the other person. For example, instead of saying, "I had a busy weekend," you could say, "I got lost in a little adventure this weekend." That small shift pulls people in. They'll naturally ask, "What happened?" And suddenly you've invited them into your story. It's a way to keep conversations alive without forcing them. There's also an entire section on humor, not the kind where you tell rehearsed jokes, but humor that flows naturally from self-awareness and lightheartedness. People aren't looking for a stand-up comic. They're looking for someone who can make them feel at ease. Lowndes reminds us that humor works best when it's situational and inclusive. If you can laugh at yourself in the right moments, you give others permission to relax around you. That's magnetic. And then there's the art of making people feel important. This isn't about fake flattery, it's about genuine recognition. When you meet someone, especially someone in a position of influence, highlight something unique about them that you admire. Maybe it's their work ethic, their creative thinking, or even just the way they handle themselves in a tough moment. People can spot shallow compliments from a mile away, but they remember the ones that feel real. Leil explains that when you can make others feel valued, you rise in their eyes without even trying. What I love about this part of the book is how it ties everything together with a single message. Great communication isn't about tricking people into liking you. It's about being intentional, respectful, and human. Every strategy, from mirroring body language to choosing the right words, is simply a way to remove the walls we all put up. Once those walls are gone, conversations flow naturally. Now think about this in today's lifestyle. We live in a world where people are glued to their phones, half listening, and constantly distracted. Authentic communication has become rare, and that's exactly why mastering these skills gives you an edge. If you can make someone feel seen, heard, and remembered in a world where everyone else is rushing, you automatically stand out. Lowndes closes with the idea that talking to anyone is less about learning 92 tricks and more about adopting a mindset. It's about showing up with curiosity instead of judgment, openness instead of anxiety, and presence instead of pretense. When you carry that mindset into every interaction, whether it's a quick chat with a stranger at the coffee shop, a meeting with your boss, or dinner with old friends, you turn ordinary moments into extraordinary ones. So here's the big takeaway. These aren't just techniques. They're habits. Habits that build trust. Habits that create opportunities. Habits that change how people remember you. When you put them into practice, you don't just become someone who knows how to talk to anyone. You become someone people want to talk to again and again. And that, in the end, is the real power of communication. After exploring all the insights from how to talk to anyone, one truth becomes clear. Connection is the ultimate currency of life. Leil Lowndes doesn't just hand you clever lines or quick tricks. She teaches a deeper understanding of what makes people tick, how emotions guide interactions, and why trust, warmth, and presence will always matter more than rehearsed words. The heart of this book is simple. When people feel seen, they remember you. When they feel valued, they trust you. And when they feel inspired around you, they want to engage with you again. The techniques we've learned, from breaking the ice to sustaining meaningful conversations, from reading body language to leaving lasting impressions, are all grounded in one timeless principle: empathy. In today's fast-paced, distracted world, slowing down, listening intentionally, and making someone feel truly heard is rare. And that is exactly what makes you stand out. This is how relationships are built and influence is earned. Communication isn't about manipulation or trying to impress. It's about being genuinely present, curious, and attentive. Every smile, every pause, every well-chosen word can create impact far beyond what you imagine. When you focus on making others feel important and understood, ordinary interactions become memorable moments. One of the most important lessons is that conversations are not competitions. Sharing space, giving attention, and creating emotional resonance is far more effective than trying to dominate or top every story. When you make people feel valued, doors open, socially, professionally, and personally. Ultimately, the power of communication lies not in talking more, but in connecting deeper. Every handshake, every chat, every laugh is an opportunity to leave a positive mark, build trust, and create a lasting bond. And the more you practice these principles, the more natural and effortless they become. If you take one thing away from this book, let it be this. Conversations are not just about exchanging words, they're about exchanging moments of genuine human connection. Show up with curiosity, authenticity, and warmth, and you'll discover that talking to anyone is not just possible, it can transform your life. If you found this audiobook summary valuable, make sure to subscribe to the Mindful Brief, like this video, and leave a comment sharing which technique you're most excited to try. Your support helps us bring more powerful summaries that can truly change the way you connect with the world. If you want, I can now combine all 6 parts plus this final takeaway into a single